Welcome aboard the Athletics Can't Wait Jets podcast, your nonstop shop for all things Jets with Tim McMaster, Zack Rosenblatt, and Marissa Dunn.
Can't wait.
The preseason in the books. The Jets wrap up a 3-0 preseason schedule. Chris Streveler was cut, boo, but is on the practice squad. Yay. And as of 1:56 p.m. on Thursday, Denzel Mims is still a member of the New York Jets. Welcome into the Can't Wait podcast. Tim McMaster here along with Zack Rosenblatt and Marissa Dunn. A lot to get to as we discuss the 53-man roster, the surprises, the not so surprises, and Zack was able to get a one-on-one interview with Sauce Gardner, so we're going to bring you that a little bit later in the show as well. If you're watching on YouTube, it's actually a video interview, so bonus there, but we'll have the audio anyway, obviously, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify. We're running a little bit late. I think we all have an excuse for that. Marissa's getting new rugs put in. I had a pediatrician appointment, but maybe best of all, Zack, who decided that he just needed to get a shave in before we started, right?
Yeah, I just really playing with fire today. I told you I went to get a sandwich from the same place around the corner for me that the last time I tried going there is when Dwayne Brown got signed. So I'm like, I know Denzel Mims is going to get traded right now, but he didn't. So I decided I came back, watched a little TV. I'm like, it's like 1:15. I'm like, I can shave my beard real quick and jump in the shower. And then, of course, take my time.
That's a Connor move. Like,
yeah,
I think
I pulled a Connor for sure.
Yeah,
no,
like
he can't grow facial hair though. So.
Very true. Very true.
Now, last episode, you'll learn probably that the fan base here, the listenership, likes to talk about hats. For a while, I had one hat hanging behind me in my other room, and then I added a second, and it was a big deal. Ended up being a third, but because Connor had a whole wall of hats behind him. But you had a Jersey City hat last time. Big change up to Miami. I think this is going to become a thing where
I know
not only are they on the wall, but you're actually wearing a different hat every.
So I decided I'm going to try and wear a different one every pod. It might eventually I might run out. I do have a lot of hats. Some that I don't like that much, but I feel like I'll just have to wear them just so I can keep this whole act going. But yeah, this is from the Super Bowl in Miami a couple years ago. I kind of addicted to hats. When I go to places I haven't been and I see like a trucker type hat, I like the trucker type you can adjust it. I have a big head, so you can't really get a one that you can't adjust. This is from the Super Bowl, so yeah, I'm addicted to buying hats like this. It's a bold move though, especially when the sun's out, because this doesn't block the bald spot in my head, so I can get burnt. So I always have to remember to put sunscreen on there. Struggles of being a bald man. But yeah, so I'm a hat guy. Funnily enough, I wasn't a hat guy for a long time because I wasn't sure how I looked in them, because I didn't like how I looked when I was younger. And then I started covering the Eagles my first year in 2018, and I just kept getting sunburnt like every day. And my brother's like, just wear my hat. I'm like, all right. And then I'm like, oh, actually, that doesn't look that bad. And then I've just been wearing hats like every day since then.
Yeah, it only takes one like top of the head. Yeah. I just have like a little spot, one burn there. And then the worst is it peels, right? And you have like, suddenly it feels like you have like severe dandruff, but it's actually your sunburn peeling. And then hats from there on out. Yeah. Yes. And then you just got to worry about your ears and you're good to go.
Exactly. Somebody asked, am I bald? I'm not bald. I just have short hair. I'm balding, I would say. I have the Rosenblatt boys all have a bald spot in the back. It's a curse we were born with.
From like your mom's dad, right? Like it's mom's dad.
Is that usually how it goes?
I'm pretty sure that's
my dad's pretty bald though, so I don't know.
Because my dad's bald. I'm doing okay, and my mom's dad had a full head of hair when he was like 80. So yeah, I think Marissa, you're right on that. I think this is not the hair discussion, but I think your hat is definitely going to be a recurring theme here, where you got to tell us where you got it, where it came from,
I like that,
and all of that each episode. We will not talk about balding anymore on this show.
It's neither seen nor heard.
Unless we have a sponsor that would like us to talk about.
That's true. Yeah.
Preventing balding.
Someone wants to sponsor my hats. I'd happily sponsor. I do some sort of sponsorship with hats if anybody's into that. Lids.
You make a good point though, because I mean, to be honest, Roman has a hair thing, so and they are an occasional sponsor. So maybe that's when we'll have that discussion. All right, let's get to this team, the 53-man roster. But I talked about it a little bit off the top, and you talked about it going to get lunch. We got to start with Denzel Mims, right? I mean, here's a guy who the trade request goes through. The Jets hear it out. I guess some teams contacted them. It wasn't the value they were looking for. He makes the roster. seems like unless somebody gets hurt, he's probably not going to be a game day roster member come week 1. But just to update us, where are we right now, Zach, with the Denzel Mims saga?
Yeah, the whole saga has happened since the last podcast, like multiple stages of it. Which it's funny how quickly things happen in Jets land, because I think at the time we talked, he hadn't requested the trade yet, because I don't believe we talked about that. That is true. So,
yep.
Yeah, so it's funnily enough, when the trade it came through, because his agent like tweeted a statement, or he gave a statement to some media members, and I happened to be with a couple Jets writers. We were like hanging out after the joint practice, and there's like a photo of I should have sent it to you to put it in here. It's like me, Connor, Andy Vasquez, and 2 other guys who cover the Giants, and the 3 of us are just like looking at our phones, like finding out what's happening. So there's like evidence of all just being on our phones. But yeah, I didn't expect a trade demand from him. Especially considering he hasn't scored a touchdown in his NFL career, and kind of, he's 6th on the depth chart and all that stuff. I mean, when you think about it, I guess it makes sense. He wants to go somewhere where he can play. He believes he can play. He spoke to us after the Giants preseason game. He didn't really want to say much. He was kind of deferred to his agent. And then we talked to him in the locker room yesterday, because we're back in the locker rooms now, which is cool. It was funny. He was like, another reporter kind of noticed that he was kind of like looking around, waiting for people to like notice him. Like he clearly wanted to say something. And so then, he went and like changed, and then he came back to his locker, and everybody surrounded him. And it's pretty clear that he still does not want to be there. Everybody in the organization keeps emphasizing it's not that he hates the Jets. He just wants to play. His whole thing was they clearly made up their mind. Somebody asked like what his role is going to be in the week 1. He's like probably inactive. It's pretty clear he's still putting the message out there that he wants to go somewhere he can play. I mean, it's obvious that the guys that are ahead of him, and they're going to stay ahead of him unless there's injuries. The question is whether what happens now. And if they were going to trade him, they probably got offers already. I imagine they weren't very significant, probably a day 3 pick, maybe a round 5, round 6. If they're not going to trade him for that, I can't see a scenario where they trade him for more. Like I've had people suggest maybe a team gets desperate. They have a wide receiver injury, but why are you going to go turn to Denzel Mims if you're desperate for a receiver to jump into the starting line? I mean, this guy barely played last year. He hasn't proven anything. There's veterans that are in free agency and guys that you could probably trade for that are going to help you more right away and be more proven than him. So I get the vibe that they're just going to hang on to him as long as they have to, keep him as an insurance policy in case Corey Davis gets hurt. I think they believe he's going to keep working hard behind the scenes. Yeah, so what you have here is you have a 2nd round pick from 2020 that's probably going to be a healthy scratch until somebody gets hurt, which, it says a lot about that 2020 draft, a lot about Denzel, a lot about the talent they have in front of them. But it's a weird spot, because I've never seen a trade request, number one, from a guy like him. Like we were talking around the Jets facility, like is he the worst to ever demand a trade? Like I know N'Keal Harry from the Patriots did, but he was a 1st round pick. So Denzel's a 2nd round pick that hasn't done anything.
Equally disappointing players,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, equally disappointing. And yeah, so you have all that. And then I haven't seen a trade request where it's kind of like it's pretty cordial. Like it seems like he's fine being around the team still. Like he's not like, he's not saying anything bad about his teammates or anything like that. He's like, I love my teammates. I love the Jets. I don't know if he loves the coaching staff. He kind of didn't really say he loves them necessarily, but I don't know. It's like, it's very weird. I haven't really covered many like trade demands in general, but I'm very curious to see if he remains a good soldier as the year goes on and he's inactive every week and whatever. I mean, inevitably somebody will get hurt. Corey Davis has an injury history. Elijah Moore was banged up last year. Like somebody I'm sure will not play 17 games and maybe he'll get some snaps, but will he be ready? And is he willing to do all the things that they want him to do? I don't know. It's very strange. But I would guess he's on the team in week 1 unless somebody comes in who really likes. I mean, Jalen Reagor just got traded for a 4th round pick pretty much. So I would think that would be their goal, is a trade package like that.
It's exactly what I was actually going to go to next. Was we've seen some receivers traded, Reagor a 4th and a 7th. I guess the 4th can become a 5th if he disappoints in Minnesota, but that does seem like, now that's a 1st round guy that's shown a little more than Mims. So, but Douglas has his line, right? He draws his line in the sand, and if he doesn't get it, he doesn't get it. The one thing that stands out to me with this whole Mims thing is going back to, the beginning of camp when his whole thing was like, I'm a starter. I'm an NFL starter. I want to be a starter. And then now it's almost like his message is they already made up their minds. They have these guys in front of me. There's no way they're going to allow me to jump over these guys. And I just, you think about it, you were a 2nd round pick. you've been on this team for 2 years. Like, you had your chance to impress everybody. And like, if you had gone out and done what they expected of you from as a second round pick, they probably wouldn't have made all of the other moves that they've made to put guys in front of you. So like, it's almost like he's kind of whining that he's not getting a shot. He clearly got his shot.
Yeah. And you know what? That was why I was so surprised by the trade demand. Because I think, if anything, it made him look worse around the league, because he looks like a guy that, just expects to be handed something because, he thinks he deserves it or he's earned it. And so when he didn't get what he wanted, he demanded a trade. So I can't imagine that. I don't know if that helps or hurts his value or whatever around the league, because I don't know how much value he has. Right. But yeah, I agree with that. And, I think one thing to remember, he was drafted by Joe Douglas, but it was the previous coaching staff. And they had an idea for how they were going to use him. He was going to be, just an outside receiver. He was only going to be at the one side. And then the new staff comes in and they want all their receivers to be able to play all the positions, and he can't play all the positions, and he doesn't play special teams, even though he was trying to this offseason. And clearly he didn't develop enough in those areas by this year. I know last year was tough for him. He had that food poisoning thing where he lost 20 pounds, and, he had a hamstring thing at one point, I believe. So, it was hard for him to learn all that stuff on the fly and stuff like that. But he's had he's in his third year now, and he has not learned how to play the other receiver positions yet. And they even Corey Davis can play multiple. They'll put Braxton Berrios on the outside. Like they want guys that can play multiple spots, and he's kind of pigeonholed into one role, and he can't play in special teams. So what value does he have to this team? Not much, because this is a coaching staff that didn't even necessarily want him. So.
Yeah, not a good fit at all. All right, well, that's enough on Mims, I think. Let's talk about Streveler, who, I don't know about everybody else out there, but from the time they cut him to the time he was signed to the practice squad, I was nervous. I was hopeful, just kind of like waiting, hoping nobody claimed him, and glad to have him back. I just think it's fun that, the preseason that he had, we all knew he was going to get cut, but it's just fun to know that he's still in that room now, week to week. And I would assume, having gone through waivers, that nobody's going to come out of the woodwork and try to sign him off the Jets practice squad at this point. So feels like we're safe that we're going to have Chris Streveler in our lives for the entire 2022 season.
I mean, we're the foremost Chris Streveler podcast, so I don't know what we would do without him. I'm going to just find a way to talk about him every week, honestly, as long as he's on the.
We should probably try to get him on at some point.
That's a great point. Yeah. I was just going to say, here's some sirens. There are probably people rioting that he didn't make the team initially, honestly. It's funny. He kind of he forced his way onto the team. When they signed him, we've talked about this because we talk about him every week, but they signed him as a training camp arm, and he didn't get any reps for weeks before the preseason started. And then he got thrown in there, and he became this cult hero. The fan base was legitimately mad that he got cut. It wasn't just a joking. I saw fans are how could they cut him and not Mike White? And it is important, as much as we love him on this podcast, we're pro Chris Streveler. He was going against third stringers and backups at the end of a game. It was exciting. It was fun. Did everything right. He's making all the
players. This is a good way to put it. I think the players who Chris Streveler competed against in the preseason are on practice squads or not on anything right now.
And the players he played with, really. Yeah. Besides Denzel Mims, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
But so I don't know. It's funny. It was the locker room just loves him. And Robert Saleh, even after the game, was that was the best preseason performance in history. And I had people tweeting at me that they were referring to him as August Brady, which I thought was good. But yeah, it's good because he's not a typical training camp arm either. He has NFL experience. He played for the Cardinals a little bit. He's been in some NFL quarterback rooms. So if Zach Wilson's hurt right now, if he doesn't play week one and then Mike White gets hurt or Joe Flacco does, then all of a sudden, if you don't know if Zach Wilson's playing the next week, they might have to call up Chris Streveler the next week, and they believe that he can run this offense. And I don't know. It's a cool story. I will say, like I said, we were back in the locker room, and of course I made a beeline for him when it opened up for the first time. And he's pretty jacked. His arms are huge. I was surprised by that. You don't really see. He's not a very tall guy either. So He's got the look. Chris Streveler for president.
Streveler got the look. I don't know how we're going to talk about him on this podcast every week, but we will find a way. All right. So serious surprises on the roster, because realistically, Chris Streveler was not going to make this team. We're glad he's on the practice squad, but we'll do some surprise cuts. We'll do some surprise makes before we get to the Gardner interview. Surprise cuts. I think one guy stands out above just about everybody else, right? And that's Jason Pinnock.
Yes.
By all accounts, this guy was impressive. 2021 draft pick. Maybe salt in the wounds is that he's now on the Giants practice squad across town. But when you think about surprise cuts, you have to think about who made the team as well, right? And the clear combination here is Ashton Davis making the team after being a disappointment. Jason Pinnock gets cut, and it sounds like from Joe Douglas speaking on Wednesday, this came down to special teams. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's the take. I still don't entirely understand it. I mean, clearly they weren't as high on Pinnock as I thought they were. He'd impressed me. I think he's he's raw. Like, he just switched to safety. He missed a lot of last year with injuries. But he was long and athletic, and he was making some plays in camp. And I've been saying all summer, I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the year he's starting at safety instead of LaMarcus Joyner. Like, I wrote that a few different times because I thought they thought that. So I was really taken aback by that cut. Not only did they cut him, they also cut Will Parks, and they kept both Ashton Davis and undrafted rookie and Tony Adams, who I didn't really know much about until the moment he made the team, to be honest with you. They clearly liked him on special teams as well. And that clearly wound up being a bigger factor than maybe I expected it to be, especially because they only have 4 safeties and the 2 backups are primarily there for special teams, which is kind of risky. They have Will Parks in the practice squad. He's more of a traditional safety. But yeah, the Ashton one, the combination of cutting Pinnock and keeping Ashton, like I don't understand it, like, on the surface in terms of talent and value and all that stuff. Their explanation, a lot of it clearly, it seems like maybe Brent Boyer was the one fighting for him. If it's all about special teams, they clearly like him on special teams. He's been a disappointment, like you said. I can't imagine it would have been that hard to find a good special teams safety on the waiver wire if they really wanted to. It's not like he cost any money, so I guess what's the point? But I don't know. I don't really understand it. It was the weirdest thing they did, for sure. Maybe that his draft status had something to do with it. I'm sure it did. 3rd round pick, 2020. Pinnock was, I believe, like a 5th or a 6th round pick last year. I have to double check that.
5th round for Pinnock.
5th round. So, I mean, that's pretty recent draft pick. And they also cut Jonathan Marshall, who was another draft pick that was recent. That was another surprise that I thought. So I don't know. I don't really know what to make of it. It's still, there's still moves to come. I don't know. They're probably going to place Vinny Curry on injured reserve soon. I don't know what they're going to do with that roster spot. I wasn't as in tune with Ashton Davis stuff until after he got cut. And then I started seeing some videos of, his tackling angles from last year and how he gave up that Jonathan Taylor. It was like a 80-yard run or something like that. And if you just watch the video of the way he missed him, it was just brutal. And he's had a lot of missed tackles like that. He's athletic. He's long. I think they like the idea of him more than you should actually like him, I would say. So I don't know. It confused me. I don't really get it. I would not have cut Pinnock. I expected him to get claimed on waivers. It makes sense the Giants did, because he might be starting at safety for them pretty soon. So,
and David, you said that they like the idea of him. I think they drafted the idea of him, and they just haven't let go of that. You mentioned Marshall, a few other surprises. Tevin Coleman cut, but that means that the Turtle made the team, Marissa.
I know. I was waiting for her to jump in.
I'm very excited, very happy for him. Obviously, shout out to all the Terps making rosters and on practice squads. College football, Maryland's starting this weekend. I know some teams already started. So, yes, I'm always rooting for the Terps in the NFL.
So off topic, by the way. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say Tim sent like an emoji of a turtle, and he said the turtle made it. And it took me like a legit hour to figure out what he meant. I had to really think about it. I'm like, oh, he means Ty Johnson. Okay.
I definitely knew what he meant, but I shockingly had so much going on that day. Wasn't totally tuned in. So I was very glad when you sent that that text, Tim. So
off topic a little bit, Marissa. Andy Staples put out a story today about college football confidence meter by fans. I don't know if you saw that. Syracuse, by the way, 39 confidence, not good. realistic, I think.
I see
But
where
the
my squad is.
Terps, people feel good about the Terps. I think it was like 83% positive for the Terps this year.
I mean, that's fitting. Usually that's
Okay.
how like this time of year goes. Maybe check back in with me in like, the
Yeah.
middle of the season, but I always have faith in them. So, and I will be watching every game no matter what, but
Do
Big
they
Ten
play
football.
Syracuse? It's weird now because the ACC got rid of the divisions. It's just like everybody's in this big mash of teams and they have a weird scheduling system. And I know Maryland, Syracuse are not like the every year teams. I don't
No,
think.
so yeah, their
So-
non-conference games are Buffalo, Charlotte, and SMU, and then they go straight into
But they don't play Syracuse in the ACC this year.
what?
I need to
No,
see where they have
Maryland's
Oh,
Big
Maryland's
Ten.
in the Big Ten. Whoa.
Yeah.
You should just
Yeah,
delete
yeah.
this segment of the podcast because I just forgot
Yes.
the last 5 years of realignment.
Yeah, I thought you meant like because they do play them sometimes in like those
Yeah, they
non-conference
do.
games. in the
Maryland
beginning
will always be in the ACC. To me.
of the year.
That,
Yeah, so
all right. Back to the Jets.
unfortunately, we have some tougher competition to face than Syracuse. I almost wish that they were playing
Yeah,
Syracuse,
you
but
definitely do.
yeah, Ohio State and
I'm trying to find where they put Arizona on the Hope-O-meter, and I can't even find them. So that's not a good sign.
I think it
They're
should be
not
there.
gonna be very good.
I think he did all Power Fives and a few other.
So-
I don't know. There's a lot of teams.
Yeah. I'll find that later.
Syracuse is borderline Power Five, but they're in there.
Arizona was pretty bad last year, so
Yeah.
I think I'll maybe send out a tease to our listeners here that Andy Staples will be teaming up with Dane Brugler this year
Ooh.
for some
Yeah,
some
some
great
draft stuff, huh?
some
Some
great
content.
content on the Athletic Football
That's
Show
awesome.
feed. So
That's an elite pairing.
yes, so keep an eye out for that. Not sure if I'm allowed to tell that, but I think our can't wait listeners deserve a little tease.
I'll keep it to
I
themselves.
honestly don't know when Andy sleeps.
I don't think
between
he
all the
does.
podcasts
Or
he
Dane.
does
You see
with
his
writing.
draft
Or
piece he
Dane.
does every year. My God.
Yes.
Dane sleeps the month of May.
Yeah,
Dane
yeah.
just sleeps the entire
Yeah.
month. And then
So we have
comes
some
back.
exciting crossover
There you go.
NFL. We're calling it the intersection between the NFL and college football.
We'll have to
So
that'd
get Dan on here
Yeah,
at some
that-
point. I feel like he'd be good.
Definitely.
For
Yeah,
us.
we do. He's an annual visitor. Yep, we'll get him. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully. So in
Hopefully we
the past,
won't be
Zach,
talking about
we've
the
Yeah,
draft.
true. It's
Dane-
because you start
Yeah.
talking about the draft earlier than
Yes.
yeah.
We've
Week
hit Dane
6.
like week 10. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully we can wait till the actual off season to
Yeah.
go to Dane this year.
Yeah.
That is hope. All right. Back to this 53-man roster. Other surprises, I think Guidry, Adaga, I mean, Chuma, this is the team that is not deep on the O-line. So, but there's only so many spots, right? Was that a decision of how many guys are we going to keep? And they decide that number doesn't include Adaga, right?
Yeah. Part of it I think is they like Max Mitchell maybe more than I expected at the start of camp. I think he's
Yeah.
developing faster. I wouldn't be surprised if they bring back Connor McDermott either on the practice squad or with that Vinny Curry spot. So then you have a fourth tackle. I don't know how confident you feel. Fans aren't very high on Connor McDermott, understandably. So I don't know how well that makes it. It's funny. I when the roster cuts were happening, I tweeted something about a few guys that I think would make sense for them to claim on waivers, and everybody's like, they need to claim offensive tackles, not defensive tackles, you idiot. Nobody's cutting a good offensive tackles. That's just not how the NFL works. So Chuma is the high end of the kind of guy you're going to get on waiver. That's why he was claimed, because he has starting experience, and so those kind of guys get picked up because there's not enough good offensive tackles in the NFL to have a good third and fourth one. So, and they're going to be this is going to be the group. You hope that you don't have to play Max Mitchell anytime soon, but we'll see what happens there.
One more name for you. Were you surprised that Lawrence Cager made this team? I mean, he impressed in the preseason, obviously, but making the transition to tight end on a team that has some good tight ends, was that surprising?
Yeah, that was surprising to me. I think you said he played really well. He flashed a lot of the athleticism and talent. You know what? Robert Saleh joked the other day that he said he told him that he was slow for a receiver, but fast for a tight end is how he described it. And so I think they like him. They view him as a project. Maybe they thought they were scared he was going to get claimed by the Giants, the team that really needed a tight end. Trayvon Wesco got claimed by 4 different teams, and he wound up on the Bears. So clearly there's teams that need tight ends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I was surprised by that. I can't imagine he's really ready to help as a blocker. He does help. He does do some special teams work. But yeah, I don't know. I was surprised that, though. I don't think they believe that Jeremy Ruckert is quite ready to play a huge role. So I'm going to be interested to see how they do that backup, because CJ Uzomah and Tyler Conklin are going to play a lot. So you really need a good backup there. So I am curious to see on game day if both he and or Ruckert are active or not.
One other thing I wanted to just get your thoughts on, because we've talked about it the last couple of weeks on this show about like, hey, the Jets are fourth in line on for the waivers. They're fourth in line on the waivers. We go through this process. The Jets don't claim anybody. They had 7 players claimed, I think, off their roster.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It speaks
Wild.
It just speaks to what this roster, the changes of this roster, right? And I don't know how many games this team is going to win this season. But the fact that 7 players that the Jets felt they could move on from, other teams wanted, and yet the Jets didn't see anyone out there that they wanted. It says a lot about how this team feels about its roster. That said, was it a mistake not claiming anyone?
I mean, it's a fair question because, you know, you look at, there were some intriguing guys. Ultimately, if guys are waived right now, there's probably a reason. You know, sometimes there's success stories like Braxton Berrios and John Franklin Myers. Obviously, you're going to have some success stories. I was surprised they didn't do any because when you have that 4th spot, that's pretty valuable, like currency this time of the year. And a guy they kept that I didn't think they necessarily would or should or whatever was Nathan Shepard. And I thought there was a bunch of defensive tackles that would have made sense to bring it over him. He knows the defense and he's been here a while. They cut Jonathan Marshall. I thought he would get claimed and he didn't. But yeah, I don't know. Like you said, it says a lot about the state of this roster that 7 guys were claimed by other teams. I mean, that's wild. And yeah, I was surprised I didn't claim anyone, but at the same time, they clearly like this roster. They keep talking about how they believe this is they're ready to start winning games, and the goal is to be competing at the end of the year. That's a line that Joe Douglas said a few times. He said it all summer, and now they just have to live up to it. I mean, ultimately, it comes down to their quarterback position, and there's still a lot of questions about that. And so you wonder if they're wasting this great roster on a wasted season if the quarterback isn't ready to, you know, be what they need him to be, and you know they have to reshuffle the deck there if he's not good enough. Like, it's a lot up in the air with that. We don't really know what Zach Wilson's going to be this year because we haven't really seen him go against other teams yet. Joe Flacco might start week 1. I don't know if he can beat the Ravens on his own. So it's going to be I'm very interested to see how this looks. Like, will we still feel this way about the roster if, you know, they're not scoring points and all that stuff? So I don't know. It's I was definitely surprised. I thought they were going to get a few claimed. There was a few players that, like Pinnock and I thought Jonathan Marshall, like guys like that, I figured would get claimed. But 7 is like an abnormally large. It was the most in the NFL. And
Which is
saying something.
There's some people who said, you know, does it mean that the Jets are misevaluating their players? I could see that argument, and there's history of them doing that. But like most of the guys they kept, you understand. Like Ashton Davis is the main one where you're like, I don't really know. And cutting Pinnock, the rest of them maybe you can make arguments for, but yeah, I think that it's a good sign.
Yeah, this is one front office where that's not something that I generally have worried about. It was evaluation of talent. I feel like that's the strong point with this group, is that they know how to do that. It's going to be interesting. At some point this year, maybe the discussion can be, I think it's too early to be that negative, but like if they're in a bad place at some point this season, picturing this roster with a top 10 quarterback in the NFL and like thinking about, okay, you know, if Russell Wilson was back there, what would the team's record be as opposed to a second-year quarterback who's still figuring it out? But maybe that second-year quarterback who's figuring it out will have figured it out, and this team will be off to a great start. So I think it's too early to be negative like that. We're trying to be all positive heading into this season. I think that's it. I think that sets us up for this interview, right? Do you want to set this up, Zach? How did this come together?
Yeah, sure.
You talked to Sauce?
Yeah, sure. I'll set it up. So Sauce was promoting something with Buffalo Wild Wings, so he got like his own sauce, which is like the perfect cross promotion. It's called a sauce.
Easiest cross promotion ever. Yeah.
And so I obviously took it. He's a great talker. You never know how those things are going to go, but as you'll see, he'll answer anything. I tried to ask him questions that he hasn't really been asked before. I don't know how much this was kept in there. I don't think the very beginning part, but there's like a moment where he says something about how he tries not to like focus on like media and all this stuff. And then he starts talking about something with me that had happened on social media. Just for context, there was a point in training camp where I like tweeted that he got beat on a play or something like that. I didn't tag him or anything. Nobody snitch tagged me either. So he must have like looked for his name or something. And then he like quote tweeted me. He's like, I don't know what you saw, Zach, but that wasn't me. LOL. He wound up deleting the tweet and stuff. So as soon as this interview started, they introduced my name, and I'm getting ready to like start asking questions. He like cuts me off. He's like, I know who you are. I remember your name. I was like, oh, you remember the tweet? That's what it was. We hadn't met yet in like the locker room and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, so yeah, it was cool talking to him. He's like we've talked about on here. His talent is like otherworldly. I really think he has what it takes to be really good physically, mentally. Like he has what it takes. We'll see if it pans out. You never know. But I'm pretty confident that he's going to be a good player, and it seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders. So I'm excited for guys to see this. I did write about our Q&A. I think there's some stuff in here that maybe didn't make that. But yeah, so enjoy.
I'll start off with like an obvious question I'm sure you've been asked a million times, especially because it kind of ties to this. What is the origin story of Sauce, the nickname?
Man, Little League football, you know, the guy I always had that swagger. I always had, I carried myself a certain type of way, so I feel like my coach gave me the nickname Sauce. I feel like it was meant. That's why I be saying it all be God for real. It ain't too many people that's gonna get the nickname Sauce at 6 years old and still be getting called it to this day. And then be having the opportunity to do something like this with Buffalo Wild Wings, one of the best in the game, and I want to be the best in the game as a cornerback, when it's all said and done. So I feel like it's all God, and I worked out, in my favor.
Definitely. I mean, I was going to say, could you, obviously you're 6 years old, so you're probably not thinking like this, but could you imagine that you'd be here right now, like talking about having your own sauce at a restaurant like Buffalo Wild Wings? Like, it's pretty crazy journey.
Man, honestly, it was a lot more stuff going on, in not such a good way to be thinking about Sauce. I was just always trying to think of, how I'm going to take care of my mom, because she was always busting her tail to take care of me. You know what I'm saying? So there was always like football. And then like when it came to college, the NIL, they like, all right, yeah, you can get your own sauce. And I'm like, I do want my own sauce, but I don't want to rush it. I feel like God, I really be putting my trust in God. I'm like, I ain't going to rush it. Because I could just go out there like anybody seeking somebody for sauce, this, and that. My name is this. And somebody would have came. I just let it all come to me. And it's like, all right, Buffalo Wild Wings. That's perfect. It's natural. I'm able to have my own sauce, smoky, sweet, and spicy barbecue. I'm a barbecue guy, and it's not like there's like, we want you to do this certain sauce right here. They let me pick it, and I'm able to pick the sauce that I love, and I always went to Buffalo Wild Wings since I was in high school, with my high school football teammates, and we always sat there watching football, eating boneless wings, and, so I feel like it was all perfect, man. It was all meant to happen, so, yeah.
So, I mean, with stuff like this happening, getting drafted in the NFL, you're like living out your dream and stuff. Like, have you given yourself a moment to like appreciate all this stuff that's happening to you? I know you're obviously focused on the season and stuff like that, but have you, given yourself a moment? I'm sure you bought a house at this point, like stuff like that. Like, has that like all hit you yet?
I ain't gonna lie, it really haven't hit me. This house stuff, I've been trying not to make it stressful, because I tell my coach, like, man, I'm in this house, but I'm trying to do this. He like, just take one day at a time. You ain't gonna be able to have everything done in one day. You know what I'm saying? So I just make sure I take my time with it. I pray at night. I pray when I wake up. That's the time that I got to appreciate the stuff. But I really don't be having time to stop and chill. I'm always doing something. If it's not, especially since I moved in the house, if it's not the house, then it's watching film, then it's practice, meetings, and I really ain't had the time to. I can't just sit there. Can't sit there and take a moment right now. Everything just happening, so I got to be ready for it.
Yeah, I think I saw you posted on Instagram recently that you had like a photo of your fridge, and you're like, you always wanted to have like a fridge that was the same color as the cabinet, like a very like small thing that maybe someone wouldn't think about, but you're like, I always imagined. Like, have you had a lot of like small moments like that where you're like, man, that's cool that I got a fridge, like that's just like something. Yeah.
That's what I always say. My favorite phrase that I got from my cornerback coach, Coach Oden, he always say like it's a little but a big. Like it's a little thing, but it's a big thing. Like I always picture myself having one of those. Like my mom yesterday was her first day coming to the house. You know, 'cause I was getting a lot of stuff done, and she didn't know what a fridge was. And the fridge literally just blended in. I'm like, fridge right there. The fridge blended. That's what I always wanted though. I always wanted to be able to walk in the kitchen and be like, and not be able to know exactly what a fridge is.
Yeah.
That's just great. That's all I ever wanted, for sure.
How's how do you feel like camp and these preseason games have gone for you? I mean, I know last night you guys got a win, and it seemed like they weren't really thrown in your direction much, which I feel like is a good thing probably. But how do you feel like it's been going for you?
It's been going real well. You know, I just been staying focused, man. Staying level-headed. You know, making sure I ain't focusing on the media. You know, I did see that one thing you posted that was wrong. But that's all good. I just wanted to help you out, you know?
I know. I appreciate it. Like I said, yeah, let me know anytime I get it wrong.
Yeah, I just wanted to help you out. But yeah, I've been trying to just stay level-headed, making sure I'm listening to the coaches, just being the sponge from the coaches and my teammates, making sure I'm doing the right things. You know, those been the main things. I feel like it's all been paying off. You know, just doing all the little things right. It's all been paying off.
How did it feel to pick off your old friend in practice the other day, Desmond?
Hey, we was talking crazy on the phone the day before that. Right?
Really?
I'm like, bro, don't even be trying to throw it my way. I'm gonna pick him. He like, bro, every time you up, I'm throwing the ball your way. We just like, you know. But yeah, that's my guy, man. It felt great though, for sure.
And I saw you celebrating a little extra after that too, right?
You said what? Oh,
you were
yeah.
celebrating a little extra, yeah.
You ain't never seen me celebrate extra like that. That was the first time. I told you what I was gonna do.
So you're talking about how you haven't really had a moment to like take everything in, but like what do you do when you're like away from football? Like what's something you do to like unwind? Like what is something you like doing?
I usually play the game, Call of Duty Warzone. Now I've been setting my game room up. I'm in my game room right now. I've been trying to set it up.
Yeah.
But it's like I'll be setting up one minute here, and then I'll be like, oh snap, but I gotta do that over there. It'd be so much stuff.
Things, yeah.
Having to unpack stuff, set stuff up a certain type of way. So much stuff. But
living on your own now, yeah.
Yeah, I got a chance to, you know, set it up for the most part. You know, I'm still doing a few more things to it.
So I mean, everybody's always asking about your trash talk. Do you get pretty brutal when you're playing Call of Duty with like some kids or whatever?
I do get a little crazy on COD. I think I got a problem, man. I think I take everything serious. Like it could be the littlest game. I could be playing something like, what was I playing? I was playing Connect 4. What was I playing? I was playing against Carl Lawson.
Yeah.
Sitting there, we had what's the place called? I forgot, Main Event. So we playing Connect 4. And it's like, when I lost, I had to run it back. I'm like, man, run it back. But I'm serious, like, bro, we got to run it. I got to win, you know? So, yeah, I get so serious about them competitive games. They don't make no sense.
No matter what it is, yeah.
No matter what it is.
I mean, on that note, like, you know, you're a cornerback, and you know, you haven't let a lot of receivers beat you, obviously, but so I'm sure you remember like on the times where you have got like beaten. Is there any that like stick out in your life, even dating back to high school, where you're like, man, I really should have got that guy or anything like that? Like, when you think back?
Not really, man. I really don't be getting beat for real. You know, I really don't be getting beat too much. Like, it'll be something small. You know, that's why I'm looking forward to going against the best guys. I want to see what they all about, you know, because really kind of hard to beat me.
So who's the hardest receiver you ever had to cover then?
Probably little Calvin Austin from Memphis. He played for the Steelers now.
Yeah.
No, that's because it was my sophomore year. I never guarded a shorter receiver. I never went against receivers that was like too much shorter than me. He was just so small and quick. But he wouldn't like cooking me though. Like he ain't had like no great game against me. He probably had like 40 yards, 50 yards. It wasn't nothing crazy, but at the same time, as a cornerback, you could feel it like, oh yeah, all right, he nice. You could feel it whether you sticking with him or not, whether he making plays or not, you can still tell like if he nice or not.
All right, good stuff. Good interview, Zach. I do like you. Definitely went away from the typical questions. I think Sauce sort of fits, which is good for him, I'm sure, and also good.
He was
for
doing
us
like a whole
and
round of
listening.
interviews and stuff, so I'm figuring I'd throw him some. As you can see, he's got a good personality. So
Awesome personality. Yeah. Very cool.
How many times do you think he answered the question, which quarterback are you most looking forward to facing this season?
That's good. He's probably had gotten that a lot. Yeah.
You didn't go there. So that's
I didn't. I only had 10 minutes to be fair. And it got cut off before the end. But like the Buffalo Wild Wings PR person comes in right then and is like, "Hey, Zach, you haven't asked anything about Buffalo Wild Wings yet." I'm like, all right. And so we'd end like, I'd ask something about his sauce or whatever.
Yeah, that's very cool. His relationship.
It's good
with
for him
Buffalo
for
Wild
sure.
Wings. But I said my favorite thing was talking about the fridge. That was so cool.
Yeah.
And like these little moments that mean so much to these guys when they make it big.
Totally,
and showing his mom his new kitchen, like
and it humanizes
awesome.
it humanizes them a bit
Totally.
too, because they're always like put up as like these like not gods, but you know what I'm saying, like they're put up and put on a pedestal and all this stuff. So it is cool when they kind of show them. That's why social media has been cool, and that like social media is terrible in most ways, but it's been cool in ways like that where they like share moments in their life like that. That's what I found out about that because he like posted a photo of his fridge to his Instagram story, and he's like, I've always wanted a fridge that blended in or with the cabinet or whatever. I'm like, I kind of get that. That's awesome.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, and it's always a thing for these guys, right? The house, getting to show mom the house. Maybe some of these guys, it's getting mom a new house, eventually.
Yeah.
It's very cool when rookies make it. And like you said, he seems like he's going to be the real deal. So a lot of fun to watch this season going forward. Speaking of this season, it is coming up quick. Little over a week away to week number 1. What does the schedule look like for the Jets here between now? It's Thursday afternoon. Obviously, it's Labor Day weekend leading up until week 1 against the Ravens.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have to physically be at the Jets facility until Wednesday. So,
wow.
Yeah. I get like a legit like weekend off. It's crazy. That's why this extra week in between the season that they added when they got rid of the one preseason game is kind of cool for everybody, I think. But yeah, so they'll be Monday. I don't know if the team's going to be at the facility like fully. Maybe they will for like meetings and stuff. Salah is going to talk to the media on Monday. Off Tuesday, practice Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then they got the Ravens on Sunday at 1 p.m. Joe Flacco, probably, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the big story though next week, right? Yes. It's just as once they get to practice, if
Zach Wilson's not practicing, or if we don't get to watch the whole practice anymore, so they could do a limited thing, and we don't know. Limited could mean he was out there for like one thing and then they pulled him out, or it could mean that he did all but team drills. So there's going to be a lot of us like trying to suss out what Robert Saleh tells us, but it's going to be, I imagine we won't know who the quarterback is until Friday at the earliest.
Yeah. And if they're smart,
next Friday, not tomorrow, Friday. And everybody's confused.
Because you'd rather the Ravens have to prepare for a Joe Flacco, who they obviously know very well, who's not going to move at all, versus Zach, who's athletic.
Would you rather that? I don't know.
I'm just saying, like, better
I
for
know
the Jets to make them prepare for both. That'll be the big thing. I can't imagine a world in which Zach Wilson starts week 1, but we'll see. And we'll be back next week. 1 episode next week to get you ready for the Ravens, and then we go back to 2 episodes a week after that, recapping games and getting ready for the next week. So excited for that. Zach, you feel like you're in the zone now with the podcast, 3 down and rolling along?
I mean,
I feel like we've all reached a comfort
I'm already
level.
on Connor time, so
very true.
I feel like I'm fully indoctrinated at this point. I don't know. Yeah,
it's funny. I was looking at your tweet. You tweeted the show out, and somebody said 145.
I know. I
really or Connor 140, and then we started at 155.
I know. I jinxed myself. I was like, we'll be on time. This isn't Connor.
As he's shaving his beard, he's like, we'll be on time.
Oh man. Okay, I'm gonna try and be on time next week. Promise.
All right. That'll do it for this episode of the Can't Wait podcast. If you want to join The Athletic, read all of Zach's great writing, read all of our writers' great writing across the board. Basketball and hockey are going to be back soon. Pennant races heating up in baseball. You can join for just $1 a month for 6 months. Go to theathletic.com/can't wait to get that deal. And we will talk to everybody next week.